July 2026, and a special trip to Missoula, Montana, to attend the grand opening of the new Museum of Forest Service History. I flew into Bozeman and drove to Missoula, about 3 hours of classic Montana landscapes, as well as some seriously fast speed limits. Welcome to Big Sky Country. Right off the bat, the building of the new museum is very attractive, and a fire plane is parked on the front yard. The museum has created fine logos and emblems, and a nice website as well. It's easy to plan your visit to this new destination. I was invited to the grand opening and was happy to say yes and to pull off the considerable travel logistics just to get to Missoula. A fellow member of the Southern Arizona chapter of American Foresters is currently president of the museum board, so he spoke. Inside, exhibits include an old-time Forest Service rig, which still runs by the way, and an old trailer representing the field of recreational use of America's forests. An entire nook is dedicated to Teddy Roosevelt, who helped initiate the Forest Service as an agency in 1905. This Teddy impersonator explained the difference between preservation versus conservation in natural resources management. Preservation seeks protection of natural resources from use, typified by the national parks. Conservation seeks the proper use of nature, sustainably, typified by national forests. Of special note, an exhibit of the nation's first ever forest ranger, hired in 1898, was being admired by these two gentlemen who informed us that they were brothers and also great-grandsons of that original forester. Wow. Outside the building, a walkway has bricks honoring donors to the museum cause. For example, my chapter of the American Foresters, the Southern Arizona chapter, purchased a brick, as did individual members. One exhibit that caught my eye was on the American Dust Bowl, which is an event covered in my U of A course on Great U.S. Ecological Catastrophes. I subsequently found more exhibits on the Dust Bowl, and I wondered just how many of the ecological catastrophes covered in my class might be mentioned in this museum. Let's keep score. The eradication of the passenger pigeon. This one prompted new laws protecting wildlife, culminating with the Endangered Species Act. Even forester Aldo Leopold evolved his thinking about apex predators performing necessary functions in healthy forests. The American chestnut. The perfect tree, chestnut was functionally lost due to a fungal blight. The American elm. The perfect shade tree, elm was also functionally lost due to its own fungus, forever altering urban forestry across America. This one involved Rachel Carson and her book Silent Spring, covered in this museum. Forest fire, obviously a big forestry issue. Fire was mentioned in many exhibits. Oil spills. Yep, the 1989 Exxon Valdez spill was covered. Oil spills mess up trees and forests a lot, everywhere, perhaps small areas compared to other catastrophes, but never ending. Global warming. A key point in my catastrophes course is to make connections from past events to the modern issue of global warming, which was covered with this unusually prescient exhibit. Gifford Pinchot III was a grandson of the first chief of the Forest Service, who was himself a close friend and colleague of President Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy, by the way, was merely one observer, amongst many others, of the notion that superabundance of natural resources was a myth, a concept that is common to virtually every great ecological catastrophe. The only catastrophe of my course not covered in this museum was the wide-scale dissemination of lead, Pb, on the periodic table across all environments. Maybe I'll offer data of mine to the museum. Dendrochemistry, the measurement of chemical elements in tree rings, can identify lead content through time. One site I've studied did in fact show high lead content throughout the middle of the 1900s, paralleling exactly the era of adding lead to gasoline, considered by one author to have been the crime of the century. In short, I felt validated by this new museum displaying so many exhibits related to a course I teach. While in Missoula, 2 other museums are well worth visiting. The Smoke Jumpers Center, right next door to the new Forest Service Museum, is a working station and has exhibits and tours. Smoke jumpers are like the elite of wildland firefighting. They start out by fighting fire for years as members of land-based squads. They must prove themselves on the fire line first. Then they apply for smoke jumper, adding the extra element of jumping out of perfectly working planes to fight fires in remote locations. They use square chutes with which they can land on a dime and also at a full stall. They pack their own chutes, knowing that there is no room for sloppiness. Since 1939, some 200,000 jumps have been made, only 4 of which resulted in fatal landings. The planes used today are custom designed for smoke jumping. The Visitor Center has a collection of fire agency patches, including for Idlewild, California, where I did my training for firefighting with the California State Parks. There's the obligatory tree ring section showing scars of past fires, with only a brief hint of the ironic reality: why have no fires been recorded since the late 1800s? Answer: in part because of fire suppression, including jumping into remote areas to put out small fires before they become big. Fire has long been considered bad, of course, especially amongst those who bravely put themselves in harm's way in order to put fires out. A seminal event is etched into the annals of smoke jumper firefighting: the 1949 Man Gulch fire, just outside Helena, Montana. A plane from this very station in Missoula flew over so that smoke jumpers could do their job. The fire seemed modest at first, but conditions changed rapidly and the fire overran the crew. 13 firefighters were lost, a shocking blow to all firefighters, to foresters more generally, and to the entire nation. A famous book, Young Men and Fire by Norman McLean, chronicles this story, and a musical quartet within the Forest Service, known as the Fiddlin' Foresters, sang a song about Man Gulch that is available for listening in YouTube. See the link below. Also in Missoula, the Montana Natural History Center has an exhibit on what has to be a top contender for the most incredible geological event of the last 15,000 years: Glacial Lake Missoula and the megafloods of the Northwest. At the maximum extent of the last ice age, a lobe of continental ice, at least a half a mile thick, reached northern Idaho and blocked the Clark Fork River, which currently bisects Missoula and carries the same volume of water as the Colorado River. Water backed up for hundreds of miles and as much as 1,000 feet deep. Missoula, for example, is at 3,200 feet elevation, and the highest shoreline recorded geologically is marked at 4,200 feet, so the math is easy. In Missoula, multiple lakeshore strand lines are visible on the hill above the University of Montana, and glacial erratics, which are large rocks moved in from elsewhere by the glacier and then dropped in place, sit right on campus. As the ice ages ended and it got warmer, every now and then the ice dam in Idaho would break, and flooding, the likes of which is hard to fathom, occurred for a couple of days. More water than all the current rivers of Earth combined flowed through Idaho and across Washington and Oregon, leaving massive ripple marks, flood deposits in Oregon, and delta fans way out to sea, well past Astoria. It's impossible to see all of this at one site, but Missoula is a good place to begin wrapping your head around this staggering geological event of Earth history. All in all, Missoula and its treasure of beautiful landscapes and many museums is an essential travel destination. Take it from me, the new Museum of Forest Service History is excellent, including kid-friendly, and the smoke jumpers and Ice Age flood museums are also worth the trip. I saw this decal at the airport, but I'm not buying it, neither literally nor figuratively.